This episode is brought to you by Google Gemini. With the Gemini app, you can talk live and have a real-time conversation with an AI assistant. It's great for all kinds of things, like if you want to practice for an upcoming interview, ask for advice on things to do in a new city, or brainstorm creative ideas. And by the way, this script was actually read by Gemini. Download the Gemini app for iOS and Android today. Must be 18 plus to use Gemini Live.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Hospitality. And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
What are you going to do to me, Daddy?
Tighten my belt by 1 loop so I don't feel hunger pains. And your sister and mother will have to do likewise. Okay, Joshua, you want to get rough with me? You want to show me that you don't like the choice of this house for our vacation by going on a hunger strike? Well, I'll accept the challenge. But just remember, when I was your age, I really did suffer from hunger. We'll see who gets through this.
Hello and welcome to Season 7 of Unequal Sequel. My name is Dave and I'm one of the 2 hosts of this slimy podcast.
And I'm Rich and I'm the other host of this slimy podcast. Think of me as Maui to Dave's Moana. He's the best Disney princess and my tattoos move on their own. Think of me as sadness to Dave's joy. He's constantly happy and I'm a strange little blue fella. Think of me as Indiana Jones to Dave's short round. I look incredible in a fedora and he's a little guy who's good with gadgets. Think of me as Toothless to Dave's hiccup. I'm a wild dragon and he's done his best to tame me.
I like that one. That's good. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, we'll often drift off and talk about other things. Sometimes movies, sometimes life in general.
And sometimes we do drop big fat spoilers to films you may not have seen, more recent sequels. If that happens, pause, skip forward, go wrap your Christmas presents. It's definitely time to wrap the Christmas presents. Now is the time to wrap the Christmas presents. I do have a quick question before we go on to the main question, and that question is, what is the first sequel you remember seeing when you were young?
Ooh, that's a good question. The first sequel, there's a chance. If it was in the cinema,
yeah.
If it was in the cinema, it would be Phantom Menace.
Okay.
We'll take it.
That came out when I was pretty young. I just remember it being such a big deal because I had actually... not everyone who was new to Star Wars had seen all of them. It was sort of brought it back to a lot of people. Like that's why Phantom Menace is so meme heavy, I think, because for a generation, it is the first one, regardless of merit or lack thereof. Otherwise, whatever debate. But it was a big deal to go to the cinema and see it with certainly what at the time was amazing effects. Less amazing now. I'll say this: I watched the Dueling Fates fight scene the other day on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it has the same problem that Pierce Brosnan's James Bond has, in that was made just before Bourne Identity fight choreography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though they've got lightsabers and there's a lot of, I'm going to say, twirling, it's slow. They move. They seem slow. Whereas once you're used to these fast camera angles, or at the very least, like very snappy movements from guys who have been, this isn't specifically about the Bourne Identity, but in all fight scenes now, it's a bunch of guys who even the softest Hollywood actor is on some cocktail of drugs and has been like activating their fast twitch muscles in a gym with 17 personal trainers for fucking a year. So like the way they move as quickly as a good boxer, it's just so fast. Whereas there's a lot of big sweeping stage fighting going on. Yeah, I just really noticed it. Where I went, God, this is like I don't feel like anyone's in any real danger here at all.
Do you feel like the music's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that scene?
Yeah, yeah. Operatic choruses are really helping them out. I think that must be the first sequel I saw in the cinema. On TV, it was probably one of the Pink Panthers.
Oh,
okay.
Which one?
I think I saw the second Pink Panther first, because that was when they realized that David Niven wasn't the star, and actually Peter Sellers was really funny, and maybe that should be the point.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a Niven franchise launch.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Was it?
It was, yeah. So the first one's really David Niven heavy, and like Peter Sellers' Clouseau character is like a side character, a supporting character, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the second one, they've realised that Clouseau is the main guy.
Yeah, and because Niven was like, it was just falling off for him that he was the most suave man in Hollywood, war hero as well, like smooth talking British commando type. Like if you could have teleported anyone authentic into the Inglourious Bastards British cast, it would have been someone like Niven, who was in the war and did have that whole attitude and that whole vibe. Turtleneck, getting away with turtlenecks, getting away with cigarette holders, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, Peter Sellers was just so good. They went, well, obviously this is now going to become an insane comedy franchise.
I was part of the people turn on the Pink Panther films to expect, the Pink Panther cartoon.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was like, this is not what I expected to be. My dad loves those films.
Yeah, that's why I watched them as well. Me and my dad. So funny, so funny.
I think they get worse, isn't there?
Oh yeah. They made one after he was dead, where there's a lot of scenes with his head in a bucket because it's a different guy.
That's incredible. I can't wait to watch that one. How old were you at that point? Do you remember?
Pink Panther. I mean, I was probably maybe I was 10.
Yeah.
I'm not sure actually. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I was young, between 10 and like early teens, like end of primary school, start of high school sort of age, I think. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been cool. Go to the school the next day and be like, guys, I've watched the Pink Panther.
I don't think anyone would listen to a single one of my recommendations in that age bracket. I was roundly my recommendations were ignored from I'd say 9 years old through to 16.
Oh, were you always a film fan then? Is that something you picked up young?
Yeah, I just thought it was great. I mean, I just got obsessed with movies, and then if I had a sort of blank Saturday or Sunday when I was at school, I would just sit and watch just movies in a row. We got Sky, which was great because there were a couple of channels that would just show films.
Yes.
And I as a teenager, I did that thing where if a movie came up, I would think, if a movie came up that I thought I should have seen, then I would watch it as a matter of interest. And you just stumble across stuff. I mean, I remember watching the movie Bronson.
Yes.
Which is, I love the movie Bronson. It's great. It's so interesting and sort of art housey and stuff. But I put it on when I was hungover as a teenager because I thought it would be some Guy Ritchie nonsense.
Yeah. Well, the trailer, if you watch the trailer beforehand, it kind of leans into that, but it's more
Britain's most violent criminal. Fucking there's a lot of that kind of thing going on. Whereas in reality, there's a bit where he's dressed in Commedia dell'arte makeup and like it's great. It's so good. It's so spooky.
It's mad, that film.
The first sequel, I remember, there was always there was buzz in the house around GoldenEye coming out. I think it was because it was an Irish Bond, and I think my dad had met him once a few years ago, and they had done something. That sounds dodgy. They had done something, and so it was just kind of like, Bond is Irish, and I met him. We have to go see GoldenEye. So that was a bit, but I think the one that really like, it was, you were looking forward to it and you think like, God, what are they going to do? And it was on cornflakes and it was on toys, was The Lost World, Jurassic Park. I think that was the one that was just like, you were so excited about, I can't believe how lucky we are that we're getting a second trip to Jurassic Park. And it was a machine in many ways. Like I said, like, I think even my economics teacher had a free Lost World watch that you used to get in the cornflakes, So like, it was so unreally exciting was when The Lost World was coming out.
That watch is probably worth a fortune now.
Oh, he's retired now, happily. That's the real economics that he thought was like, hold on to your cornflakes, Lost World watch.
Do you still get stuff in cereal like you used to?
I think it's all now like you can scan things and you can play a game. Was there a
period when kids went through eating the free things, and ended up getting sued?
Probably.
Oh,
because they thought it was food.
Well, there's a whole like non-plastic stuff now, isn't there? So like, so yeah, with my boy, all the little toys, Happy Meal toys and stuff, they're all like books or made of cardboard or little stuffed toys and stuff. There's no like plastic crap like we used to get.
And you had your hand straight in there, like when those when they had the Power Rangers and the Frosties. Like,
yes,
my hand was like straight in there.
They'll fight my brother as to
yeah. My brother was older. He was like, "Oh, what? It's a Power Ranger." Like, do you mean you've got actual Power Ranger figures? Why are you doing with this this wee plastic thing that you're ruining my cereal for? But
yes,
needs must, boys.
What age were you when the Lost World came out then?
It was 97, wasn't it? So
it was.
I would have been 12.
Good age.
Great age.
Yeah.
Good age. I'm guessing you've seen Jurassic Park by that point then in 93.
I did. It was a really lovely core memory. I obviously saw Jurassic Park. I must have been about 10, and I must have loved it. But the one that I really remember must have been that weekend or the next week or something, that me and my mother and brother were down the street, and she was like, pop into, this was like 3:00 in the day, and she was like, just pop into the shop there, get some sweets. And I was like, oh, fantastic. And then she said, no, look, sure, we're going to see Jurassic Park again. I was like, but it's the middle of the day. And she's like, yeah, but there's like a matinee on. And like, I'm assuming I had been to a matinee before then, but it was just the idea of it was so, I was like, we're going to see a movie that we've already seen that was brilliant. It's the middle of the day. And it was genuinely like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Like that, the fact that we were going to go see Jurassic Park for a second time in the middle of the day. And it was the best feeling ever.
Love that.
And what about the second one?
The second one is an odd feeling, isn't it? Because because like when you're a kid and you know what I mean, and like Goldblum was like, clearly now Grant was our boy, but like Goldblum was so cool in that first movie. So when you're a certain age, and then when you hear like, okay, the sequel is coming out and it's going to focus on Goldblum, and you're thinking like, okay, this is going to be great. And I definitely like that. There's that massive set piece in it, with the, mommy's very angry, where the two T-Rexes come and try.
That bit is great.
That is fantastic.
The tension when the glass starts cracking. Classic Spielberg. It
is wonderful. I remember thinking, there's something missing here. And I think it missed a bit of that magic of the first one. And I think it was trying, because like that, when you hear the theme song, you start bawling still. And the first one is, I think there's like a few perfect movies, and I think Jurassic Park is one of them. The second one, I think, for a long, long time, I thought was missing a lot of that magic. But I don't know, over the last few years, it's kind of, it's grown on me an awful lot. Do you think
that's because all of the ones that follow it are maybe not so good? And so I think you reevaluate Lost World a bit.
Yeah, I think it's very much like, well, look, let's not, let's remember the good times here,
Yeah.
First sequel I remember seeing a bit, probably Godfather 2.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then, that's probably the first one that I got quite excited about. I was never into like I'm trying to think when we were kids, but like Star Wars, things like that. I was never into that.
Yeah.
Or fantasy, anything fantasy based.
But gangsters was your thing.
Gangsters was my thing. Yeah, I watched Godfather quite early on, and I really loved it. And then that was it. I was very into that. So Godfather 2, which I didn't enjoy as much because I'm not a massive Rob De Niro fan.
Wow.
I know, it's controversial. And so, I mean, to be fair, he didn't have to. I don't think it kind of pushed him. Anyway, yes, I'm not a massive Rob De Niro. I mean, compared to Brando, but yeah, so I wasn't hugely like blown away by it, but I was very excited to watch Godfather 2.
Can I ask what age that was?
I was just thinking that too.
Yeah. Was that your decision, or was that your family trying to make you watch Godfather films instead of Disney films? If we're talking,
we watched. I probably watched Godfather when I was about 13.
Yeah.
So probably watched Godfather 2 about then as well.
Wow, okay. So not really, really young. I was thinking you were going to say like 8 or 9 or something for a second then. But no. So 13's all right. I think that's all right.
I can't remember any sequels though before that.
A lot of people are like the rubbishy Disney sequels and stuff, but it doesn't sound like you're into that sort of thing. No.
But all the Disney films I watched as a kid were like the old Disney ones, which didn't really have sequels.
No, you didn't go straight to video DVD ones then.
No, we there was what were so all the ones I'm like, God, I can't remember the Disney films I watched as a kid. They would all be like the Robin Hood, Jungle Book, and there was Jungle Book 2, but I don't think I ever saw it.
Oh, don't! It's awful. It's
terrible.
Someone has picked it as their worst sequel on here before. It's very bad.
We've watched The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 as well as a worst.
Oh, I don't think I ever saw The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I don't think I ever saw it.
No, we've done the Beauty and the Beast, the Christmas, whatever it is. That was someone's worst pick as well.
Yeah, so all the sequels when they try and do Beauty and the Beast 2 or all those things, I always just feel they never come out in the cinema. They're never good. I mean, the Toy Story sequels are good.
Yeah.
The Pixar ones.
I appreciated them as a kind of grown up. I didn't watch them as a kid.
Right. What kind of films were you watching when you were younger then?
I was watching a lot of old films. I wasn't very conventional. In that sense, and I think it's because I had quite an unconventional family, but my parents never really entertained children's entertainment. It just didn't really happen in our house.
Right.
And they were my parents would be like, I'm not taking you to sit in a cinema and watch whatever. It's just not going to happen. So we would always watch like quite old films and kind of like cult classics, but we never really did a lot of like, and they hated fantasy, and as a result I hated fantasy. So a lot of my friends that when I was like younger, like 8, 9, they'd be like Labyrinth.
Well, that's terrifying. Labyrinth.
I thought it was shit. I thought it was so boring. Return to Oz.
Terrifying.
Shit. I just found all these things really boring, and everyone would be like, how can you find it boring? And I'm like, I mean, it isn't great though.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, I don't. I think if you've grown up with more grown-up stuff, then it's hard to go back. You know, once you've seen like more adult stuff, you don't want to watch the kiddie stuff maybe so much.
Back to the Future is like my husband's feeling ill film, and like whenever he's feeling ill, he always wants to watch Back to the Future and have beans on toast. And Back to the Future, when I was a kid, Marty, I know like we shouldn't slag off Michael J. Fox, but Marty McFly, I thought was probably one of the most annoying personalities.
Oh, yeah, he is. Absolutely.
He's bouncy, little, hyper, American. I mean, not that being American, there's nothing wrong with that, but just the kind of like, everything was like, I don't know, he was just so bouncy and hyper, and I was like, oh, I just want to slap him. So I could never really get on board.
We've talked about this before, where like Marty McFly is definitely the kid who peaks in high school and then is just a twat after that. Like,
and everything he says is so like, even his jokes, they're all just really arrogant and overly confident. And I'm like, he just annoys the crap out of me. But also, I mean, that film's highly problematic because essentially you're watching his mum get sexually assaulted, and then she just has to marry the guy that saves her from being sexually assaulted. So I'm like, it's not the greatest of messages.
No, that's true. That is very true.
I would have to say it's probably Ghostbusters 2.
This is a good choice.
It's the one I really, really, really remember as sticking out, and the reason why it stuck out for me is because the time it came out, let me try and think back, I must have been 5 or 6.
Wow.
Came out in 1989, and I couldn't wait to watch it. I was really up for watching it, and I was really into Ghostbusters. Love the original film from what I remember of seeing at that point in time. Love the cartoon. I had all the toys. All of them. And it was one of those things where I had like the Ghostbusters firehouse.
Yeah.
I had my favorite was my favorites were like Peter Venkman and Winston Sedmore. So I had definitely played with those guys a lot. We had to go outside to use the goop that goes down into the firehouse and everything. I had a proton pack. I had a ghost trap. I had the projection thing that you press a button and it projected on the walls, ghosts and stuff.
Oh, cool.
I had all this stuff. I couldn't wait to watch Ghostbusters 2, and I missed most of it because I was absolutely shit scared. Absolutely shit scared. There was something about watching that movie at that point in time that was absolutely terrifying. And when I say it was terrifying, it's Vigo. It's Vigo, and it's Peter McNichol's glowing eyes, and the bathtub that comes alive. And you guys talk about like children in peril. There's lots of children in peril.
Yeah.
There was just an element of the effects and what they were that were very, very scary. More so than what I remember in the first film. The first film was Zool, who was in the film, but not as throughout the film as Vigo. And that guy, like the painting was very scary, and what they did with the thing was very simple in terms of making it quite fearful for me. Because I know there's other people like, oh, it's not that scary, but when you're a young child,
I'm 100% with you.
When you're a young child, there's certain things that kind of jump out at you, and the thing about him, it was like the face like beaming out, electric coming out of his eyes. He was I know we're in a completely different world, so saying certain things kind of get looked down upon her. But he's an ugly man. Like when you read about him, because he had like his really weird, I think almost criminal life as well. The actor, but when you look at him, he's a big word, drastic word, repulsive. You don't like to look at him. He's very, it's evil. It's a stern face. There's something about it. And then when it's starting to move and effects are doing so much, I was really excited to watch it, but I remember being dead scared of it all the way through.
Oh,
yeah,
Vigo, when you're a kid, Vigo is not a dude you want to be anywhere near.
Well, this is it, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like Home Alone. And like Home Alone, there's in Home Alone 1, Home Alone 2, there's always one adult that Kevin McAllister goes and is kind of scared of because he doesn't know them and they're kind of weird, strange danger, but then he sits down and they're actually quite nice. And, Chris Columbus isn't my favourite director, but like there is something about how he films them at the beginning of both movies, and then you get to sit down and interact with these people and go, oh, they're not that so bad. They're just, they're just slightly old and you don't know them type thing. But there's this kind of known unknown about Vigo. He was this I think he was an absolutely brilliant villain in that sense, because he was what you could consider to be ugly, quote unquote. So therefore there's this kind of recoiling terror from him anyway, because of his height and everything else like that, and just eyes and staring eyes. Like everyone knows it. Like everyone has something similar. You look at someone like on a bus stop or something, and they're looking at you, and then you look away, and then you look again, and they're still looking at you, and it's like that's weird. Like there's just that element of there. But it's also, again, the effects, and again, Peter Nichol walking down a hallway with his eyes glowing. It's just like, there was some really good, like, young horror in there.
Well, for a 6-year-old.
There was a really good young horror in there, in the same kind of way of something like Poltergeist.
Sean, what is your best ever sequel?
So, this is hard because I want to cheat and call Infinity War and Endgame the same, like one movie. I know you can't. And I'll even listen to the argument. So here's the thing. So people who have no clue who I am. I grew up a Marvel junkie. Like I love Marvel. I love DC. I'm a huge superhero nerd, right? So I grew up collecting comics. I bagged them and boarded them, and I love the process. I love the whole world. The fact that I was covering movies for the past 20 years for a professional site at a time when the superhero genre, came into its own and was at its peak.
Oh yeah.
Is absurd to me. Like I couldn't have been more lucky, because like I love this. I legitimately love it. And it became the biggest thing in the industry that I had chosen to cover. Now, if it had been any other genre, I would have shifted and focused on that. And we could have had a 20-year sci-fi run that would have been iconic or whatever it is. But it happened to be superheroes. So Infinity War and Endgame showed me things on the big screen that I never dreamed possible. I just never dreamed that I'd ever get to see them.
Yeah.
Like there's a scene in Endgame where Black Panther takes the Infinity Gauntlet and runs it like a football player, passes it off to Spider-Man, who's wearing Tony Stark's armor, like an Iron Spider suit.
Yep.
He gets picked up by Valkyrie, and then eventually passes the gauntlet off to Captain Marvel. And all of this is in context of a story that makes sense. It's like insane to me that we've had all of this mapped out so that something like this can happen.
Yeah.
Maybe Infinity War is the better movie start to finish, and it's cool that it has the ending where they lose. But the last hour of Endgame, and I even think the stuff before it with the time travel and, bringing Tony back, and there's great moments in it. But the last hour is just a geek's dream. It's everything you could have ever wanted ever. And so I have to rank that as the best sequel I've ever seen. It's arguably one of my favorite movies ever. And so yeah, I'm choosing that for my best sequel.
You're not wrong, Sean. It's an incredible achievement. I have to ask you, what was the build up like to Endgame for your industry? Were you getting like little nods to what was coming?
No. The best thing was that was Marvel in their prime of being able to maintain secrets.
Yeah.
That was heading into Infinity War and the promise of Thanos, paying off the delivery, the payoff of this multi-year. You got to remember, like, no one knew what a cinematic universe was or could be before Marvel started this, and then simultaneously we watched other studios try to do it, specifically Warner Brothers with DC, and fall on their face. Like Man of Steel begot Batman versus Superman, which begot a terrible Justice League, and Wonder Woman never figured out how to tie it. So they kind of proved how difficult it was. And Marvel was creative and smart, but very lucky also. There's definitely luck involved in that. Like things could have gone wrong. Theoretically, the odds are things should have gone wrong, but they had hit after hit after hit. And even the movies that didn't quite get there, Iron Man 2, Thor: The Dark World, they didn't derail it, because then they always had something kind of fun right behind it. Guardians would come right behind it, or Iron Man 3, or something that at least kept people invested. So heading into the two-part, and this is part of what Marvel's wrestling with right now, is that they're trying to maintain that level of excitement by teasing out movies, we're going to do the Kang Dynasty and it's going to lead into Secret Wars. Well, then this is what I mean by like they got lucky.
Yeah.
The Jonathan Majors situation, what if that happened early on? What if that happened to Chris Evans?
Wow. Yeah.
What do they do in that situation? It's out of their control. It's something that an actor does off screen, but like that derailed their plan. The Jonathan Majors thing derailed their plans for the next couple of years. They had to pivot. They got to bring back Downey Jr. They got to do all this. So the fact that we got through 20 movies that concluded with Infinity War and Endgame, it was like an Olympian sticking the landing, and it was like, are they really going to do it? And then they did it. And it was, it was something to behold and something that I don't think we're ever going to see again. I'm just not sure if it's possible.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Lovely choice. Yeah. It's a cracking choice.
It was my favorite film of last year.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I think it's like, it feels almost embarrassing to say that was my favorite film of last year. It's so good. It's so good. I watched it. I actually watched it last week. I think I watched it last week. again. So I think that's why it's in my head. Maybe it's not my favorite sequel of the time, but I think I watched it and I was like, I think this film is like a perfect film.
Yeah,
and I actually love the fact that it's unresolved at the end. I think
I was going to say, doesn't that?
Yeah. I think I've matured now, so I'm not a screaming 9-year-old, and I'm like, okay, well, some things you can wait for. And by the looks of this production, we're never going to see the third film ever because all the animators have gone on strike or whatever. But I just thought it was great. Soundtrack was fantastic. I think that I love movies that there were so many things that paid off throughout the movie. So things that are paid off in the first film and then within the film itself. The structure was fantastic. Yeah, cast were great. I love the Spot. He's great. Yeah, I just liked everything about this movie. Thought the animation was incredible. I think even the opening sequence, the job that went into the animation, the opening sequence is probably more hard work than most people put into most feature-length films.
You can see why the animators had a bit of a breakdown. And they were like, we need more time to do the third one.
Yeah, because after it came out, they were like, the third part's coming in 2024. And all the animators were like, no, it's fucking not.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't want them to do it in 2024.
No.
But
or 2025 at this rate, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's going to be taking the time. Were you a fan of the first one then, Into the Spider-Verse?
Oh, yeah, big. Well, I was going to the second one, because I didn't think they could do a better job than the first one. Because I thought the first one was probably the best Spider-Man film there is. And then I was going to the second one kind of, with a sort of reticence of being like, I'm going to be disappointed by this. Maybe that's fine, but you know what? It's okay. It will look good. It will look good. And, it's Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man. It was better than the first one, in my opinion. So
okay.
I was why I was like, it's even better. Yeah, I think it just it's great. I love it. It's very funny. I love all the references to, like they like all the references to all the other films. Yeah, it's just perfect. For me, I watched it, and in the cinema when it ended.
Yeah,
I went to go watch it with my old flatmate. We were just like stunned it was like we were like, whoa. And sometimes you finish a film and you just sort of sit there. You're like, wow. That was like the crescendo. I remember I had that when I watched Whiplash in the cinema.
Yeah.
The last 15 minutes of Whiplash was like the best ending to a film I've ever seen. Just the completely nothing said for the last 15 minutes. It's just that drum solo, and so many things are paid off musically within that thing, and then it just finishes on a bam, and then it's like you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But that's how I felt at the end of Spider-Man.
Are you a Spider-Man fan? Like, do you like the other movies, or could you not give it a toss?
No, I like other Spider-Man films. The Andrew Garfield ones are not great, but he's good.
Yeah,
he actually he came to see me do stand-up once.
Oh,
really?
I think, yeah. He was there and he came backstage and said hello.
Nice,
sweet. Was he nice?
He was nice, really nice. Well, he didn't say we don't have much to say to each other. He just said, "Oh, really enjoyed that. I think it was the routine about gladiators or something."
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I said, "Oh, thank you, Spider-Man." I think he was in a relationship with another comedian that I'm friends with at the time,
right?
And that she was there, and then he was there too. So actually, by me saying that he came to see me perform stand-up comedy, that's not true. He came to see his girlfriend perform stand-up comedy, and I was at their gig, and then at the end, he came to the green room and said hello. So So actually thinking it through, that is exactly what happened.
But he has seen you do stand-up comedy.
No, but he's seen me. He stayed, and he said he came backstage. Sure. Was I in the same green room as his girlfriend? 100%.
Yeah.
Did he come into my green room specifically? No. Yeah.
Well, at least you were both there.
Exactly.
You know what? We were both there, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
We both are alive on planet Earth, and in that way, we have a special connection.
I bet he thinks about it.
Spider-Man. He thinks about me all the time. Yeah.
When that first Spider-Man animated film got announced, are you one of these people like me who was like, why do we need a Spider-Man cartoon?
Oh, 100%.
And then it turned out to be the best thing ever.
Yeah, I was like, just release Spider-Man 4.
Yeah.
Throw money at Tobey Maguire, make him do it. That's what I want.
It's a predictable answer, and it's not at all tied into the fact that one of the actors is peddling his autobiography at the moment, but it's The Godfather Part 2.
Right.
Not picked as much as you might think. Despite widely being renowned as the best sequel ever made, I think you're the only the second person to ever pick it in like 7 seasons. So, yeah.
Good grief. I'm genuinely surprised at that. I would have thought that was going to be my most predictable choice out of the ones that I've selected.
Yeah. When did you see that?
It was, the thing is, it's again, a lot of it is tied into not necessarily childhood memories of watching these films, because obviously it wouldn't have been appropriate, but my dad loved the Godfather films, and I always remember,
there we go.
Yeah, it's he had the VHSs of the Godfather, and even though I wouldn't have been interested in them anyway, because I just look at the cover and I think, okay, it just looks like it's about a fusty old man, why would I watch that? But it looked really boring. Yeah, I was quite intuitive at that age, clearly, but I always remember, again, my dad owning those VHSs, I became aware of them probably at too young an age, really, despite having not watched them. But it was the symbol of like the hand with the marionette strings, above the title. That was a very, very good, like, simple little image. And then, one of the VHSs, it might have been the back of the third one, had a shot of Al Pacino as Michael Corleone with the glasses on. So it's funny how these images again sink in. But in terms of actually watching them, I wouldn't have thought it was until I was a teenager, probably about like 17, 18. I think that's probably a fairly standard formative period for watching these kind of films. I mean, I remember at that point, that was when I was getting into like Scorsese and Tarantino and all the classics. I think my dad was quite pleased when I first watched it. He was like, good, I can finally talk about it now because you've actually seen it. Yeah.
For so long, like my dad, when he suggests films when I was young, I was kind of rebel against it. So I can see where you're coming from there. Yeah.
It's, my dad tried, I do remember him showing me the spaghetti westerns, and I do remember getting quite restless, but again, I do remember them sinking in, like imagery and landscape and things. I remember him. It's funny what I remember him watching. I remember him watching Platoon. I remember him watching Blade Runner. And obviously I was too young to watch all of these. But a lot of these movies he considered to be very important. And when one catches up with them, like for The Godfather, for example, you think, oh, okay, now I know what I've been missing all this time.
Yeah.
There was I bought, when I was old enough to do so, there was this would have been in the early 2000s. They released all the Godfather films on the chunky like DVD collection. That must have been when I watched all of them like pretty much in one go. I would have thought. The Godfather I really liked as a establishing the landscape, but The Godfather 2 absolutely blew my mind. I was like, wow, it's like 4 hours. It feels like it flies by in 2 hours. It's so gripping and so beautifully handled. And it doesn't make the mistake of just repeating what's in the first one. It embellishes it, it builds on it. It teaches you things about the characters that you didn't know in the first, which I think is what any great sequel should do that. And Francis Ford Coppola did such a masterful job of that. And Al Pacino, just this man shrinking inside himself and losing his soul. It's chilling. To say it's chilling is an understatement.
Yeah. But I kind of came... Well, Godfathers are weird films. They're the way you come about Godfathers. Either, like us, you become film fans and you feel like you have to watch them because everyone keeps telling you to watch them, or your parents try and make you watch them, or you weirdly stumble across them at late night on Channel 4 or whatever. And stupidly with films like this, they always started at like 12 o'clock at night, and the next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And you're still going.
Or like me, you watched it for a podcast.
Yes. So Rich is really new to the Godfather series.
Well, I watched The Godfather at university in our first year of uni.
And then you thought that's enough.
And I didn't watch part 2 until we started doing this podcast.
Oh, blimey, okay.
Yeah. So
when did you guys start doing this?
3 years ago, I think we've done it now.
Oh, great.
Yeah, 3.5 years ago.
So I watched it, I think I watched it for Petros. Was it Petros's one?
Yes.
So that's series 4. So we're like, probably about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I watched Godfather Part 2 for the first time.
I think people are a little bit scared of, maybe haven't picking it because I've never seen it, because it is long. It is you have to commit. It's not like I can go, hey, to my missus, do you want to watch Godfather 2 tonight? And she's like, oh, sure, how long is it? But like, 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
3.5 hours.
Is it a mini-series? No, it's a film. It's one film. Yeah.
It's a bit mad.
I love The Last Jedi. I just love it, you know. I love...
Let's make lots of people angry, Andy. Come on.
Yeah. Like, I loved when... That whole era, when Star Wars came back, was so genuinely exciting. It was so unbelievable. Like, when those teaser trailers first came out, and, you know, they released that great cast photo, you know, when everyone was sitting around in a... Yeah. And the cast was fantastic. You know, Adam Driver, Donald Gleeson. You know, there was a real kind of like, you know, Mark Hamill, Harris Ford. You think like, what on earth can this be? You know, and then when that movie came out, when The Force Awakens came out, it genuinely felt like, well, it was Christmas, but it also felt like Christmas, Star Wars Christmas, because like,
yeah,
I'm not sure what things were like in England. I know there was all stuff, but like even the Spire, which is our monstrosity there in the middle of O'Connell Street in Dublin, turned into a lightsaber. You know, they changed that into a lightsaber. You couldn't get a taxi. Wow. If you were booking a taxi, like on the apps, the app was changed to an X-Wing. It just felt like the entire world was suddenly, you know,
Star Wars.
Was suddenly into Star Wars, you know?
I loved it.
Yeah. It was just, it was that moment when in A Force Awakens, when, do you know there's that great opening shot and, you know, of the drop ships coming down and it's the shaky cam and storm, you know, the new type of stormtroopers are there. And, you know, it's like just that great kind of fight on, I can't remember the name of the planet, but like, you know, it's when you first, and then I really think this is fantastic. And it's one of my favorite Star Wars moments is that moment when Kylo Ren's ship lands. And he just kind of like comes out and he has that voice and he says, look how old you've become, you know? And you're thinking like, you've no idea who he is. You've no idea what the situation is. How are we back into this? And it was very exciting to think, okay, this is a Star Wars world we don't know anything about. And like, you know, I still watch The Force Awakens every Christmas or so because there was that lovely kind of Christmas.
It's a Christmas movie.
It really is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the more you mean think about it, look, it was, and I think this is JJ's thing, is that he'd kind of go like, yeah, that was cool. But I'm just going to throw some JJ at it, you know? So, but I think it was needed and it did the job that it had to do to get us to the genuine brilliance that is The Last Jedi. Like, I just love it. I just absolutely adore it, you know?
That Force Awakens movie, I know that everyone says it's a remake of A New Hope and it's not original and that sort of stuff, but I didn't care when I watched it. I watched it on my birthday, which is a couple of days before Christmas, and it was incredible. I loved it. I came out of it and I was so happy. You know, I was really kind of, the minute that kind of like, you know, in a galaxy a long time ago, far, far away, you know, that as soon as that line came up, I was like, yes, I'm in a Star Wars movie. And it was so good. And I didn't care that it was a remake of A New Hope. I was fine with that. Like, you know, I loved it. Loved every minute of it. And then Last Jedi, I didn't love so much when I first watched it, but I'm definitely reframing that. The more I watch it, the more I actually enjoy it.
Yes.
And then we won't talk about Rise of Skywalker.
No.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
I had a very similar thing to you, Rich. I went to a very early screening of Force Awakens. My brother lived in Dubai at the time and he was coming back to get married. But more importantly than him getting married to his beautiful wife now is him and me organising a trip to go see Force Awakens. So that was a big thing to us. And that screening was like a rock concert. One of my favourite ever screens. People actually lost their minds in lots of it. And then for The Last Jedi, I had a job at the time which allowed me to sign people in for BAFTA and Oscar screenings, which was amazing. And there was a Q&A afterwards with all the Last Jedi cast, including Mark Hamill and stuff. So I've always had this like rose-tinted glasses on with The Last Jedi because I had the best time watching it. And obviously there's John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, you know, Rian Johnson, all those people. Benicio del Toro was there. It was insane. So I was like, and then people asked me, how was it the next day? I was like, oh, it's fucking incredible. And then I couldn't believe the next few weeks where people started to really hate it for some reason. And I've never really got on that train at all, because I think it's great, like you, Andy.
The holidays are about spending time with your loved ones and creating magical memories that will last a lifetime. So whether it's family and friends you haven't seen in a while, or those who you see all the time, share holiday magic this season with an ice-cold Coca-Cola. Copyright 2024, The Coca-Cola Company.
Future you faces some big expectations. Work out more, go to bed earlier, and most importantly, make smart money decisions. Thankfully, today you has Bank of America. One place with tools and guidance to help balance tasks from budgeting to saving. So you can just be you, with big plans. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/futureyou.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
We have got a little question before we go on to the worst sequel. So this isn't that question. This is a separate question. This is, what has been the most disappointing sequel you've ever seen? So you go in high and you come out low. So it doesn't even have to be a bad sequel. It's just one you were really excited about and it wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
So Star Trek Nemesis is pretty bloody awful.
Great pick.
There was so much positive advance word about that film before it came out. And I rewatched it recently for the Star Trek book, and it's just dreadful. And it's one of those films where, even worse actually than motion picture, where it's just sort of composed of unrelated bits and pieces that don't make any sense, and where none of the actions taken by the characters seem to be in any way things that an ordinary sane person would do in furtherance of their clearly stated goals. If you want a more recent example, I think you guys might have discussed this on a recent episode. Beetlejuice is one I was looking forward to so much.
Wow, yeah.
And it's such a mess.
Oh, okay.
My feeling is that they must have got about 7 or 8 different pitches for Beetlejuice sequels and then just decided to make all of them. But the bits don't cohere. They don't hang together in any way. And I thought it was really... disrespectful is a big word, but I knew that Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis weren't going to be in it for a variety of reasons, but I didn't expect they'd be just tossed aside with, we found a loophole. I mean,
they do that.
It's like the Master in Doctor Who. There was an escape capsule. You were burned to death. Well, I got better. It's just poor. There's good stuff in Beetlejuice actually, and it probably is not as bad as Star Trek Nemesis, which is pretty bloody awful. And I did like the MacArthur Park, the sheer bonkersness of that MacArthur Park scene. The fact they used the entire song as well. It's one of those things where it goes from this is amazing and nuts to I think I've had enough of this now, all the way back around to this is amazing and nuts again, just because it goes on for so long.
I suppose they've paid for it, so they might as well use it.
Might as well use it. I completely agree with everything you said about Beetlejuice. And I also came out of it going, do you know what? That was quite fun. Quite enjoyed it.
Good for you.
Like, it is a mess, and it's not, there's far too many characters in it and far too many stories, and it doesn't make a lick of sense in lots of places, but I still quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I might have a low bar because we've watched a lot of rubbish recently, so that's a caveat with that.
One of the things that was so clever about the original is an awful lot of things that don't make sense in the original, I think, are very cleverly hidden under this reads like stereo instructions.
Yeah.
So the book that the characters are reading, which is supposed to explain what is happening, doesn't actually make sense, and therefore the fact that nothing in the film really makes sense is fine.
Yeah.
And again, it's like if I'm having a good time, I don't stop to question things, but if I'm not having a good time, which I wasn't in Beetlejuice, I start questioning everything.
Yes. Yeah, I feel there's a certain charm about the original Beetlejuice, and I think that's kind of missing. I don't think it's an awful film. Like Rich said, we've watched a lot of rubbish recently. Even at the cinema, we've watched a lot of rubbish recently.
We really have, yeah.
And I made you watch something fairly rubbish.
We will get to that, and you will fill our raft, Tom. So I just want to Star Trek Nemesis. So, because you're a big Star Trek fan, Star Trek Nemesis comes after First Contact, right?
With Insurrection in between. Insurrection is one everyone forgets because it's so forgettable.
Because it's rubbish as well,
and it's got problems of its own, and so. We're kind of all expecting the pendulum to swing back and to get a film as good as First Contact, if we were really lucky, because First Contact's amazing. Yes. But it's by far the worst of the Next Generation films. Even worse, again, than the Generations is another one of those films where the bits don't slot together properly. But Generations feels like Star Trek. But as I was watching it again most recently, I think it's Riker, like running down a space corridor, firing phasers with both hands, just thinking, what the hell am I watching? Yeah. This has nothing to do with Star Trek in any way, shape or form.
No.
And I think I'm right in saying that Stuart Baird, who directed it, has not directed a film since.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Do you go into every Star Trek film like Tomorrow's Christmas kind of thing?
Of course.
It's going to be, yeah. I'm going to ignore everything that's written or said about this film and my own opinion.
And you know what? Didn't much like Star Trek. Thought it was okay. The J.J. Abrams hated Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yes,
but I found the enthusiasm for Star Trek Beyond, which isn't a good film, but it's a hell of a lot better than the first
Beyond's
two.
Fun.
Yeah,
it's got some weird moments.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. Compared to Into Darkness, it's an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah.
Yes.
I never get over Beyond about how they chose to use that same song in the trailer than to ruin it in the movie when they play
that was disappointing.
Sabotage. I know, again, we've got Simon Pegg, even him afterwards, like, that was mad by the marketing to ruin that surprise of that.
Inside Out 2 recently.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
All right, but I just thought Inside Out 1 was so good. Yeah. And Inside Out 2, I found it a little bit long, a little bit dry.
It is quite long, I will say that. I quite enjoyed it personally, but I think
I enjoyed it. But I was just so excited for it, and we were like, the whole family were like, we'll all go out and have a day out at the cinema. And then I was like, just wasn't really. I felt like just loads more could have been done. I just thought it was going to be quite exciting, that kind of period. But then I just felt, it was just it just wasn't, and it just doesn't hit the mark.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that because Inside Out 1 connected with you at all, or?
I think Inside Out 1, it was just really, it was such a quirky idea and really good fun, and I think you kind of expect, you've got all these new emotions. How's that all going to pan out? But I mean, it was fine, but it just wasn't like, I couldn't really remember much about it. I don't know if I'd want to sit down and watch it again. Whereas in Inside Out 1, I've seen loads.
It is quite a similar story, I suppose. It is kind of a retelling of the similar thing where, you have to, I guess it is quite.
I'm confused if they tried to make it for adults or for children. That's always my argument for Inside Out 2. I'm not quite, I haven't got kids, so how did your kids react to it? Were they completely lost with the anxiety thing, or?
No, I think they got it. But I don't think they really cared that much about it.
Yeah, it's not as fun as the first one, weirdly.
Yeah, the first one, it was all so like straightforward. It was quite easy to identify, whereas in this was like, I can't even remember what the story was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
She's getting older.
She's getting older. Yeah, she's got more complex emotions. I watched it at the cinema and I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. And then I watched it with my son, and anxiety especially kind of really like connected with him, because he has ASD, and so he he struggles a lot with anxiety and stuff. And so especially at the end when she's having the anxiety attack and it's whizzing around in her head all the time, and he's like, oh, that is what it's like. That is kind of like, how I feel. And, that was quite nice. It meant a lot more watching it with him than it did watching it on my own.
Yeah. I don't think I've got particularly anxious kids. I don't think whereas then I was just sat there going, oh my God, that's me. But I don't think they really.
No.
But, I mean, it was fine. It's just, it wasn't as fun as the first one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think it's as fun as the first one either. No, it's missing.
Do you often go into films looking forward to them, whereas what was the last film you're really looking forward to?
Because you have to go and watch a lot of kids films, so I don't really I want to go and watch Heretic,
right? The Hugh Grant film. I
really want to watch that. I might go and do that on Sunday night, actually. Might go and watch that.
We can recommend a sequel, actually, like Smile 2. It's surprising. It's surprisingly good. Like,
I'm going to watch Smile 2.
Me and Dave watched it at the cinema, and there were a couple of times where he almost jumped in my lap because he was like, the jump scares really got him.
I'm a jumper. And I think the people behind laughed at me.
Yeah, quite a lot
when it happened. So
I'm a jumper too. I'm definitely gonna watch Smile 2, but I think I'll watch it at home, but I want to go and watch Heretic.
Yeah, they both look really good. Hugh Grant's just crazy good at the moment. Like, he can do it. I've heard really good things about Heretic. Me and Rich are not great in horror films. We're getting worse the older we're getting.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. When I was a teenager, couldn't watch anything. If I watched a horror film when I was a teenager in my 20s, I would be awake for weeks. I remember at uni, we went to watch The Others, and I made all my flatmates sleep in my room for about 3 nights solid.
Brilliant.
I couldn't do it. But now,
I think it's since I've had kids. Like, I think that's that makes me softer somehow. I don't know. But I've never really liked like body horror stuff, though. I've always been a bit squeamish about that.
No, I'm not good with like Saw or things like that.
No.
I'm not interested in people being chopped up. What I like is the psychological. I really like things that are kind of dark, where you're constantly wondering what's happening.
There is a bit of gore in Smile 2, but it is very psychological. I mean, it's completely psychological.
Have you seen Smile 1?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'd say Smile 2 is better. Yeah, it's better than the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I had a whale of a time, weirdly, watching it.
I
enjoyed being scared. There's a really good creepy dance sequence stuff going on.
It is, it's a funny old. It really. I watched it on a plane to Dubai, and then I was on my own in a hotel room in Dubai, and I just kept thinking about the Smile, and I was like, oh, leave the light on.
It picks up literally where that film left off as well. So no spoilers to everyone.
Okay. Oh, that's quite good.
So it goes. So it's good. We recommend that.
Do you know, I think maybe one of them, I think a big one was probably Trainspotting 2.
Okay, yeah.
I hate Trainspotting 2. Like with a passion. I really hate it. I hate that it exists.
It really divides people. It really does. We've had it picked for best sequel and worst sequel by people.
Your face changed from bubbly to
pure rage.
Can't wait to get to the other one. Okay, so I'm guessing you're a massive Trainspotting fan.
Love it. It's perfect.
It's great.
It's a perfect film. Again, 90 minutes. So much is packed into it. It's an incredible adaptation. I love the book, but what they did with the book and how they condensed that really complex, like myriad narrative, kind of just collage of ideas into a cogent narrative is just perfection. It captured the zeitgeist. It is, kind of maybe the definitive film of the 90s, as far as British cinema is concerned, that and Richard Curtis movies, that's what Britain was at that point. And it has lost none of its power. It's so fun. It's so funny. And I read the book. I read Porno, the sort of, semi-sequel that Irvin Welsh wrote, which is okay. It's pretty good. But I just think that what Danny Boyle did with the sequel is just nothing. It's ugly. It's got no sense of humor. It's sluggish. I think also what he failed to do is it just feels out of touch. What that film should have been is like a Before Sunset. Like, let's check in with these characters and see how they relate to the modern zeitgeist. Like, I can't remember what year it came out. 2011-ish, maybe.
Well, the sequel, no, it's much later than that. It was almost like 2017, 2016, 2018, something like that.
2017.
I went to the press screening of it. I went to the press screening of it, I can tell you that much.
But okay, even more so, then the film needs to be a reflection of like post-Brexit Britain. How do these characters operate at a point where England has gone through a massive, major seismic shift? And as a reflection of drug culture, well, drug culture now at that period in time is, cocaine. A lot of cocaine's has a big resurgence. That's what people are doing. It had to be, there should have been a communication between the characters and the environment they're in. And it wasn't. It was just a bunch of loosely connected sketches where Renton is dating a girl, a woman. And I think maybe the casting call for that role was, we're looking for the worst human actress. And they nailed it. They nailed it with the person they cast. It was devoid of anything. It was, garbage.
Were you
could not have been worse?
Yeah, when you were going into it and they announced that they were, because it was rumored for years, wasn't it? They were going to try and put a T2 together. Shouldn't even call it T2. That made me throw up in my mouth a little bit.
It's insane. Why? That's not only because of the Terminator thing, but there's like the soap or the candle shop.
Yeah.
Every time I see T2, I'm like, it's so confusing.
They even use the same colours. I think that's fine. Were you hopeful a little bit? Were you like the cast is coming back? Danny Boyle's coming back. I think. Was it John Hodge was rewriting it and stuff? What were your feelings?
Yeah, I think the trailer looked pretty great as well. I'm pretty sure the first trailer released seemed pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think I was hopeful. I think reviews were kind of mixed. Some were saying it's crap. Some were saying it's great. So I was like, okay, I don't know where this is going. Either way, I'm going in open. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go with a blank slate, and I'm gonna judge the film on the merits of what it is. And I think within 10 minutes, I was like, I think I hate this. And it just got worse and worse as it continued. I hate that they both did heroin again.
Yeah.
Rented a sick boy with no consequences.
Yeah.
Because last time you showed me kicking heroin, he was strapped to a bed, seeing dead babies walk on the ceiling. And this time he does it and just goes back to business.
Yeah.
That's completely antithetical. Also, it does the thing which I really hate in movies, where it ends with a character writing a book about what you've just read.
Yeah.
It's so clumsy. It's so tacky.
It's Stephen King's favorite thing.
It's abysmal. I just think I did like a YouTube rabbit hole recently, where I was like, is it as bad? Maybe was I just a bit butthurt at the time? So I just did a bunch of clips to see if it was as bad as I thought it was. And I was like, yeah, it still stinks.
It definitely doesn't have anywhere close to the impact of the first one. Even the soundtrack, the soundtrack of Trainspotting is absolutely iconic. It's perfect. I could not name you a song from T2. I just couldn't. There's nothing about it. It really does miss that mark.
Leslie, what is your worst ever sequel?
The Exorcist II, The Heretic.
This is the right answer. I've said this before, I know, but I mean it this time. That is the right answer.
Right.
Okay.
Well, go for it, and then we'll ask questions.
Well, I'll try. I guess the thing is, I can talk a lot and I ramble sometimes, so I apologise.
No,
it's all good. It's all good. That's what we're here for.
So I was privileged. So I was privileged to meet William Friedkin a couple of years before he passed away. I was a dribbling mess. I didn't have anything interesting to say to him, but it was just fantastic to meet him because I feel he, considering some of his opinions and everything else like that, I think he's this amazing raconteur, amazing filmmaker. And The Exorcist was similar to Ghostbusters 2 in the way where it's just there were just images in there that seared into my brain and scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I think The Exorcist is slowly becoming one of my favourite films of all time. And it took a while to get to that point, but I've kind of watched it. I'm watching it more frequently now, and there's just something about it that I think is absolutely amazing, astonishing, beautiful, even at times.
Yeah.
And then you get The Exorcist II, The Heretic. And it is, I like films that are truly bonkers. I'm completely fine with films that really kind of push for a certain amount of ambition or anything else like that. But what I really don't like is when films are kind of cynical and cynical from the outside in terms of how they're being made. And when they are badly made by people who can do better and who should know better. John Boorman is a decent filmmaker. He is a decent filmmaker. He made some great films in the 70s. He also made Zardos, which is weird, but it's an interesting film. And he didn't do The Exorcist, the first film, because there was something about the idea of having a 12-year-old girl in peril that he didn't like. He didn't like that aspect of it. He didn't like that. So his thing was when he got offered to do the second one, was like, oh, well, I'm going to make it a more hopeful film and whatnot and everything else like that. But you just
Sorry.
You just get the feeling that, like, I don't think you get a hopeful film with a script that seems like it's been written on toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to message Dave. I've never seen this film before. And I had to message Dave to say, I think I've missed a bit. Because, like, it's edited to hell.
It's
like, it jumps around so much. I had no idea what was going on. I got to the end of the film and I'm like, I think I've missed something. I must have fallen asleep or something. Because I don't know what's going on in any of this.
It's awful. And it's bonkers in that really horrible way where it's just like, you just get the feeling that no one knows what they're doing, but they're just trying to ride it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, Richard, I think I put there's a IMDb bit of trivia where Linda Blair talks about Richard Burton, one of the original Hellraisers, and his drinking. And like, it seems like at the start he was fine, but as the making of the film progressed, he began to drink more. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
I don't blame him.
I'm not surprised.
Not surprised, yeah. He looks genuinely pissed off to be in every scene. Like, he looks like he's hating every minute of it.
And it's horrible to see a film where the actors look jaded. It's horrible to see a film where, like, so I do a erotic thriller podcast, and like, we watch a lot of crap, and there's a lot of weird like gender politics, and there's a lot of weird stuff that go in these movies and whatnot and everything else like that. But they've got their aims and they've got their thing, and there's consenting adults and everything else like that. There's something I really dislike about certain scenes in this movie. Linda Blair seems to never wear a bra in this movie. She's 16 years old. Simple as that. Yeah. And there's that scene where they're on the top of the skyscraper, and if you watch it with and look at the lighting and look at what she's wearing, everything she wears is really flimsy. And it's this thing on where it's like, are you exploiting this girl? You turn around and you complain about The Exorcist being kind of exploitative in terms of what it does, and there is an element of that, and I can understand that to a point. But here, you're kind of taking the piss.
It's got to be Troll 2. It's Troll 2.
We have been waiting for this. Since we came up with the idea for this podcast, we've been waiting for Troll 2 to come
and
up.
Dreading it.
And dreading it at the same time, yeah.
I think it qualifies as the worst ever sequel because it has absolutely no relation to the movie Troll 1.
Nope.
It's just called Troll 2. And my favorite thing about it, at no point during the entire film are trolls ever mentioned.
Nope.
It is entirely about goblins. The entire movie has been poorly translated from Italian. And what's more, the person who made the movie insisted that the actors say the lines as they were poorly translated from Italian, as opposed to say them how an actual American person
That would
would say them.
explain so much.
Yes.
Oh, did you not know that, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That's why the actors are like, but that is not what I would have said. Like, it's all because there's an angry Italian guy there going, it's not what it says on the script. Like, he doesn't understand that it's badly written. And it was written by this lady who thought vegetarianism was like a threat to society. And so that's why the goblins are vegetarian.
Mamma mia, what a plot.
The goblins love vegetables so much they kill humans and turn them into vegetables so they can eat vegetables.
Like there aren't enough vegetables in the world.
Just farm, you fucking idiots. It's so stupid. And then Stonehenge pops up towards the end, spoiler alert, but it doesn't mean anything and for no reason. Stonehenge is involved. It's got some interesting links with in the Italian mind. There was a phase in Italian cinema where there were a bunch of, those giallo movies.
Right.
They were nicknamed giallo because the sort of cheap film gave it a sort of yellowish tinge or something. But there were lots of sort of hammer horror, the Italian equivalent of hammer horror. And it was often set in England. And England for these guys was this kind of spooky place where there were things like Stonehenge or pagan druid stuff going on, or someone had passed around a fucking VHS of Wicker Man all the way through Italy, and they'd all seen it and gone, "Oh my god, these pale, unpassionate, vampiric English people are all very unsettling." And they have this you either have an aristocrat in a castle, that's creepy, or vegetarian English people who live in a village and have dreadlocks and ponchos on, and we find that creepy because we're Italian.
Yes.
And they don't even have proper families. They all fuck each other. It's all terrifying hippies. So some spirit of that got into this lady, and she wrote Troll 2, but set it in the Midwest. The main guy's dad was just a local dentist. None of the cast are actual actors.
I think that's quite clear throughout the whole of this movie.
And it's one of the funniest. Knowing it's shit and watching it is one of the funniest things you can do. I mean, it's up there with The Room is. I mean, The Room is more cult. Certainly in the UK, you can see a lot more screenings of The Room than of Troll 2. But it's up
my
there.
My favorite story about the actors is Dom Packard, who plays like the drugstore owner, was on day release from a mental hospital, and all of his scenes were shot on the day that he was on day release from a mental hospital, and then he had to go back to the mental hospital after shooting these scenes.
What did he say? Like,
he's the guy who
but to the nurses, I mean, did they believe him?
Oh God, I don't know. He's like,
I was in a movie about
today
about goblins. They go, yeah.
Yeah, of course you were.
Calm down.
I have to
take
ask,
your pills.
How did you come to Troll 2?
I saw,
because it's not an easy one to come across.
I saw a reference to it years ago. I mean, this must be like the mid-noughties when I was a teenager. Maybe it was a thread somewhere about like worst film moments or something, because I remember also in the thread was the Garbage Day clip. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, thank God.
It's from some terrible movie, but it's the clip is really funny because it's a guy just putting out some bins in a kind of generic American suburb, and then like, when someone is revealed having been hidden by a passing truck.
Yes.
The truck drives past and there's a guy there, like a crazy guy in this road standing there with a gun. And the guy putting the bins out goes, "Oh, oh," and the guy with the gun just says in an insane way, "Garbage Day," and then shoots him in the chest, and the guy flies backwards. And that's become that was a whole thing. And so like in this thread where Garbage Day, which I recommend as a clip.
I'm going to find that.
They had the clip of him, the guy in Troll 2 saying, "They're eating her, and then they're going to eat me. Oh no!" And I just was crying, laughing, because the idea of knowing that you're about to be eaten by goblins and your response being to say, "Oh no," is so funny to me. Oh no! Yeah, oh no! You're gonna fucking die, man.
So again, this is quite a heavily contested prize, but there's one film I keep coming back to, and I was thinking about this today. Really bad films don't get made as often as they used to. In the 80s,
I'll take that.
Just like really bad films got made all the time. Films where clearly there isn't enough money, clearly it's been cut to pieces. So you have films coming out, like even big franchise films like Superman 4 is genuinely awful. Yes. I mean, it doesn't work on any level, and it's not just I don't like it. It's that like pretty much everybody involved in it has disowned it.
Yeah,
it's vastly under budgeted. It was cut to pieces in the editing room.
I was
trying to think about this
Milton
recently. There
Keynes.
was a film called The Snowman, which was out a few years ago, where basically the director said we'd shot about 85% of it and then had to edit together what we had. That's why it doesn't make sense. Sorry. Oh. But that kind of thing doesn't really happen anymore. But it used to. And one of the people who would do that a lot is Blake Edwards. So did you guys watch this?
Yes, we did. Curse of the Pink Panther.
So what's your history with the Pink Panther? Because I've got a little TED talk about the Pink Panther films, which I'll do for you unless you stop me. But tell me what's your guys' history with the franchise?
Go first.
I'll say not only did we watch it, but we had to pay to watch it.
No. I could have let you a DVD, mate. I'm so sorry.
Thinking of asking for a refund.
You should only have asked.
So my history is probably watched all of them as a kid. Like my dad liked them. Don't remember very much other than Kato. I think that's the main thing that sticks out. And constantly being disappointed that they weren't a cartoon.
Yes.
I think that's my major thing. I remember quite liking A Shot in the Dark, I think. Like, you know,
that's the connoisseur's choice.
Yes,
it was the second
right.
one.
Yeah, the second
and
one,
it's the one without the name Pink Panther in the title. It was based on a play, and I think you can sort of see that. But it's the first one with Herbert Lom as Dreyfus, which adds a lot. And it's the one where they're making an Inspector Clouseau film.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the first time, which they weren't with the Pink Panther, as you probably know.
No, it was David Niven film, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
And I kind of hate that kind of comedy. That's the problem. I really hate this when someone's... I just want them to do something that isn't stupid. Like, I just want to shake Clouseau and be like, stop being an idiot.
Yeah.
And I find it with like Mr.
One of
Bean,
the weird
all
things
those
about
kind of things.
The Naked Gun films, which are very funny, but if you compare The Naked Gun to Police Squad, one of the big differences is in Police Squad, Frank Drebin isn't an idiot.
No.
He's simply a vehicle to deliver jokes and has to do what Leslie Nielsen was so good at in Airplane, which is deliver them straight. Whereas what in The Naked Gun, they sort of decide, well, he's got to be more like Clouseau. He's got to be bumbling, which he never was in Police Squad. And I think it's just a less interesting take on the character, because I think the idea of him playing it absolutely straight while all this bonker stuff happens around him is a richer joke. But him being bumbling is something we've seen before. But we've only seen it before because Sellers did it so extraordinarily. And whether you like it or not, it's simply a matter of taste. But I think it is interesting that, I think it's Edward says this about him, that like Peter Sellers was not Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was a physical genius. And so if his character needed to be clumsy or to get something wrong or to fall on his own feet or whatever, then Chaplin could do that because he had precise control over the position in space of every atom of his body. But Sellers was genuinely clumsy. And so that made him acting clumsy in many ways more appealing. Because it looks like what it would actually look like if you tripped over your own feet and fell over, whereas nobody in the world trips over their own feet and falls over like Charlie Chaplin does.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's true. I've got a very history like Rich. My dad loves, I would say, the early films, and he bought the box set when they came out on DVD, and I used to, I think, come down quite a lot in the house or come in on a Friday night and he's watching them, and he does say they get worse. And like Rich, I've probably watched a lot of them, but I can't tell you what happens in what order. But famously, this is a bad one because
this is a very bad.
This
one.
is where there's no Peter Sellers, and I do have questions.
There are 11 Pink Panther films.
11.
How many do you think have Peter Sellers in them?
4.
5.
Oh, that's close.
Yeah. So actually, in them is. Let me rephrase that. 5 have required Peter Sellers' active involvement.
Oh, okay.
Speed 2 is the worst sequel.
It's the right answer. It is the right answer.
So I know this. Well, maybe not at the time of recording this, but at one point, what do you think? So when I actually watched this, what do you reckon the percent on Rotten Tomatoes this is?
Oh, it's low, isn't it?
6 or something, isn't it?
When I first watched it was 3.
Wow.
3.
I don't know what it is now, but it was 3 at the time. Yeah, it's just it's one of those movies that it's like, I think it gets into it's so bad it's good. Like it was one of the few films that I enjoyed watching in the series because just how fucking ridiculous the concept is so stupid. I mean, it's called Cruise Control. I read halfway through the movie it was called Cruise Control because it's on a cruise.
Yeah, I
think there's so many things about it to enjoy. There's Keanu Reeves. They've replaced him with a random man who's but they've kept Sandra Bullock, who actually recently said that she still regrets doing that film. Willem Dafoe's in this film. He's got leeches. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The whole film is set on a cruise, a famously slow, something that's very slow.
Yeah.
But the stakes are completely almost not even there. It's like, on a bus, you get it. Like you go, if you explain speed to someone, the premise is like, you get it immediately. You're like, okay, he can't stop the bus. That would be a problem.
Yeah.
In a city.
In Speed 2, it's like, in 3 hours, we're going to hit that ship.
Yeah, it's like the sea is famously really big and like really hard to crash into anything. There's like a really weird storyline with like there's like a 14-year-old kid who fancies
Jason Patrick. Yeah.
And he basically doesn't even say no. No, he just says it's great. He doesn't say no. He just says She thinks he says long-term relationships don't work out of extreme situations or something like that. So he doesn't say no to the 14-year-old kid. So that's like a weird thing in which he's like trying to, he's kind of like half deterring this child. And the director really there's a moment in it where the child is like sucking a lollipop. It's like she's like doing something weird with, she's like making eye contact with eating food, and he's like, she's trying to like be sexy with him. And the camera like pans down her whole body. And it's like, it does like a little like it's like, what the fuck are you doing? This is a child. Anyway, it's really weird. It's really odd. My favorite thing about the movie is at the end where like the movie is kind of wrapping up and they've still not managed to stop the ship, which is just like mad. Like just like drive it until it runs out of petrol. Like that's what, you know, famously ships have to restock the fuel quite a lot. Like just, you know, anyway, they hit like a one boat, this guy's fishing boat, which explodes. Anyway, it's a sailboat. Yeah. It's a sailboat, and it explodes. It's great. And then there's one character called Dante who I really liked. I really clung on to. He goes, "Oh my god, the boat slowed down slightly when we hit that boat." So the plan of the movie, how they finish it, is they just drive it into a small village in Jamaica. They just drive it through a village, and I mean, it's clear to see they're killing hundreds of people.
Yeah.
It's you know, they're destroying businesses, homes. It's so funny, and the ship is so big. It's like bigger than the island that this fucking Jamaican village is on. People are still driving into it. You know, it's so funny, and they eventually stops once it's destroyed the entire village, and then this very emotional music where they're all high-fiving each other. And it's just like, it's so funny that the last shot is it zooms out to reveal what the ferry and this giant cruise ship. And it's like, it's literally, you can see it's just destroyed a whole town. It's this like really emotional scene of which, you know, they finally, of course, like, I can't believe like they were like, we never thought to drive it through something to stop it. It's like, that's the whole premise of the film, is that you don't want it to drive into anything. That's the problem. It's like, well, the ship can't stop, it gets hit something, that's a problem. But at the end of the movie you go, well, we solved this by driving it through something. It's just so it's the worst. It'd be like at the end of Speed if Keanu Reeves was like, I think I'll just let the bus explode. Like, I'll just drive it into an embassy and let the bus explode.
And of all the things, like, they just let it crash into a town when about 200 yards up the coast is a nice big beach that you could just, like, let it crash into the sand.
I can't believe this. I think there is a plot point where they can't steer it, so it's just going straight. It's been programmed to drive straight.
Right, okay.
It's still shit.
They still turn the boat, though. They find a way to turn it.
Because they turn it away from
They go under the ship, and then they manually turn the rudder. So they can turn the boat at that point, yeah.
You're 100% right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. By the way, it's on 4% on Rotten Tomatoes now. So
it's a 4%, so yeah.
So it's people are starting to like it.
It's getting a renaissance.
Yeah.
It's coming.
It may be recency bias. I think the worst sequel is Joker Folie à Deux. Of all time.
You are not wrong.
I think it's fascinating. Truly, it's a really fascinating exercise in everyone in that film making the wrong decision. Every decision is wrong. And I don't even like Joker that much. I thought the original Joker was fine. It was fine. I see why people responded to it, but it was, it is, you're working, it's just Taxi Driver cheap. It's Taxi Driver, it's the Pepsi version of Taxi Driver. It's meh, but it's fine, This one was, the fact that the last person I'd recommend Joker 2 to would be a fan of Joker shows just how misguided they were. It's just a mess. It's a complete mess. And it does the opposite of what the before films do, in that like the existence of Joker 2 erases any possible affection you could have for Joker. Just ruins it. Now Joker's just the story of a guy who's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
It's just nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Like,
it's a bit mad.
I just don't... I think what frustrated me most about Folie à Deux is every time I thought, oh, hang on, this might get interesting, it flipped to a shit song. Like, it wasn't like this. I don't mind a musical. I quite like a musical, but the songs have to mean something. They have to be part of the movie. And this was just like, oh, we'll just do a cutscene to a song. It'll get us out of this hole where we don't know where we're going with the plot. Like, it was nonsense.
Yeah. Zero consequences. Like, there'll be a scene where it's in the courthouse. I think there's a big musical sequence and he smashes the judge's head. So it's like, okay, so you get to show violence. You get to try and have your cake and eat it. But then you flash back to reality and it's totally inconsequential. There's zero cause and effect. Nothing is happening. It felt like being in a waiting room.
Yeah, it's like you've watched a Bollywood movie and completely misunderstood it. Like
100%.
Maybe that's what they're there for.
Spoilers for it, but the fact that it's not the only appeal, the entire USP of that franchise is that you're playing around with the idea of like, this is how the Joker was made.
Yeah.
And to erase that means, well, there is no reason for anyone to now watch either film. They're utterly meaningless.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, Arthur Fleck never felt like my Joker anyway, because the Joker's mad, but like really intelligent and really cunning. Yeah. And Arthur is not that, he's never that in either movie. He's unlucky and you feel sorry for him, but he's not clever. He's not that Joker. And I think that's obviously like spoilers for the end of the movie. He's not that Joker, but then just feel like, oh, well, I've wasted my time watching 2 fucking origin stories for the aunt. Like, it's just rubbish.
It's insane. Yeah, because he has no motivation. He has no belief system, and that's the best thing about the Joker. When the character really works, is that they've got a belief system that they're trying to impose on the world.
Yeah.
But I think Joker could have worked. I think Joker 2 could have worked if they told that story. If it was a story of Arthur, some weirdo starts hanging around Arthur Fleck, they're spending time together, and you see that transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they have their cake and eat it too. I mean, they should have done an Alien thing. It should have been called Jokers. That's my pitch. So you're seeing
I'll take it.
Arthur Fleck get this like acolyte who then betrays him at the end, and then you're seeing how the baton is passed.
And they could have done that in the film. They could have done that in the prison, couldn't they? Instead of just
100%.
tacked it on at the end for that.
But they wasted
seconds.
the character because Arthur starts hanging out with another guy.
Yeah.
Who should have sort of filled in that like new Joker role. So there was just no consistency of vision. Like, I think the elements, what they were trying to do, I think could have worked, but they were just so flippant. It was a film fueled by ego, where they're like, the first one made $1 billion. I don't want any studio notes. We're not going to do screenings. We're not going to do test screenings.
Yeah.
We know it's going to work. Give us 4 times the original budget. And now it's just completely tanked.
I think they could have, it's going to go down history. It's going to be studied in classes soon, like Joker 2 and what went wrong. When they going to turn tables back a little bit, so if you've seen Joker, you thought it was fine, and they announced a sequel, and you think, okay, well, that was going to happen because it made $1 billion. What did you think when they said it's going to be a musical?
I mean, it did fill me with optimism.
Okay.
I think you have bitten off more than you can chew. I think the idea, because his touchstone was Todd Phillips' touchstone. I think he said, "I'm inspired by the umbrellas of Cherbourg."
Right.
So I'm like,
classic.
Okay, I don't know if that's what the incels want, but sure, let's go for it.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Got to have a little question for you before the dream sequel question is, what sequel seems like a bad idea, but you ended up liking? Again, Top Gun Maverick could be a good choice here.
Seems like a bad idea. Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question that I ended up liking. Oh, what? No, that's a good question.
At the beginning,
just playing for time.
No, we can for examples because you've dropped one right at the beginning of this conversation when you Mission Impossible 3, possibly.
Yeah, I mean the first film's not a film I'm mad about. I remember enjoying it when it came out on video. Second film didn't like at all, and so I guess the fact I enjoyed the third film so much, I used to be a bit obsessed by the third film. I think I had a problem. Truth be told,
is it because it's got the best villain of all the movies?
Oh,
Philip Seymour Hoffman is the best villain.
He's the best actor of all the movies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's definitely the best actor in all those movies.
I think because I was a big Alias head as well, and it was basically just an Alias movie.
Right? Were you a J.J. Abrams fan at that point?
Yeah. Back at that point, I think I then. The first couple of years of Alias, was a big fan of, and Lost, and there's a period where I just used to like his films as well, just after it came out. I really dug Super 8. And
Super 8's great.
Yeah.
Super 8 is great, yeah.
And the first Star Trek, there's a lot to enjoy.
Again, great.
Yeah, true, yeah. The second one, not so much.
So with Mission Impossible 3, were you, I'm guessing cinema job in university?
I was working this cinema in that period. But it was after university, just after, and I think maybe I was working the cinema or I just finished. Either way, I didn't pay. That's the only important detail to remember.
Were you looking forward to it at that point? A Mission Impossible 3.
I think the trailer. I think the trailer was like, oh, the trailer was like, unless they've just sold me a false bag of goods, it was. I remember being impressed by the trailer.
Yeah,
and that was like, there's potential. So often we've been disappointed. We've seen a good trailer, Suicide Squad trailer or stuff. But he goes, oh no, that I can remember the stuff at the end where he's getting hit by the rocket on the bridge and down Key West, wherever the hell that is and stuff. And I remember all that. They teased me nice with a sequel, because before that I think I'd considered it kind of a dead franchise.
I did as well. I massively did at that point, because like you, the second one didn't age well. I think I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it.
Didn't age well by the time it even reached the screen.
Oh, yeah.
No, I agree.
It had a great soundtrack.
I quite famously, because I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, didn't even like the first Mission Impossible. The second Mission Impossible put me off forever, and then I never watched any others until we started doing this podcast and people started picking them, and I ended up having to watch all the Mission Impossible.
We made you do a ranking.
You did make me do a ranking, and three is when exactly the same as you. 3 is when I'm sort of like, oh, I'm back in this now, because Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance, that character, that what he does with that character is so chilling, and all baddies should be like that. If you anyone making a movie that has a bad guy in it, watch this performance, because that is not a bad guy that will kill you. That is a bad guy who will kill your entire friends and family and make you watch and then leave you alive, because that'll hurt you more.
Definitely.
That's a baddie.
Was that cold open? You go, oh yeah, you go Mission Impossible. It's like one of these sort of Bond wannabe franchises. I've got it and stuff. But that opening catches you off guard.
Yeah,
both structurally and impact, and you're not ready for it. Because I didn't go in. I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be a big, spy shit. But when you cut straight in to and then the bullet, and you're like, whoa, that's you go, oh, that's how to open a film.
Yeah, and then they light the fuse.
Yeah.
Can you see then where it's gone to now? Did you have that was going to be the direction that film was going to go into, that franchise? Sorry.
I guess you sort of picked up by the fourth one, you'd were taking on that there's going to be at least one big stunt per film. That's what by the fourth film because the fourth film, I think most of my friends like it more than me, but I do think like the Burj Khalifa scene is probably the best scene in all the franchise.
That's so good.
Just because the film has its ups and downs. The fourth film, it's a decent watch.
It's got a rubbish bad guy. That's the big problem of the fourth one.
But that sequence is amazing. And so by the time you got to that, you go, oh, that's the big set piece for this. And then you saw the trailer for the net one after that. You go, oh, the bit on the plane, that's the big. We're going to go to a bunch of places, and Tom Cruise is going to run, and there's going to be a big. The third film is key in the franchise because they'd worked out. Abrams and co came up with a structure. They're like, we can just do this.
Yeah.
The first film wasn't replicatable. Second film, not. This one we go, there's a jelly mold here. We can make loads of vodka jelly out of.
Do you think it gets enough credit?
No, not at all.
I don't know if I've fully come up with the right answer to your question.
There's no wrong answers.
Well, one of the candidates that I would have been toying with alongside Aliens, just because I think it really does raise the game of the first film, is The Bourne Supremacy. I think The Bourne Supremacy is an absolute banger. And I probably was excited for it to a degree. But I thought The Bourne Identity was sort of okay. I didn't think it was great. And I thought, I guess maybe the thing is it left so much room for improvement, and it left so much room for directorial improvement.
Yes.
And Paul Greengrass just jumped in and just jazzed it up so much with his particular style. I also think Tony Gilroy just did a much smoother job with it, writing it, expanding the character, and doing a lot of those things where, you just kind of make it all bigger and better. So that film definitely exceeded my expectations, that's for sure.
That's a really good shout. No one's actually mentioned Bourne, I think.
I think it's a huge jump between the first one and the second one.
Big jump. And I don't think that Bourne Ultimatum quite sustains it on the same level, because you can see they're sort of trying to copy Supremacy again a bit too much. It has too many of the same elements just brought back in. We bring in a new actor. We do a big car chase, except because the big car chase is in New York, we've got like half a lane of a highway to use instead of Moscow, where they just get the whole of it.
Yeah.
There are just aspects of the Bourne Ultimatum which I think are a little bit more strained, but I still like it.
What about the other ones? Is there the fourth one, the one that people
Legacy.
seem to want to forget? Oh no! Oh yeah, forget about Legacy.
I actually don't mind Legacy. I think Legacy is a weird film because it doesn't have Bourne in it. It's quite strange, but there are bits of it that I really like, and Tony Gilroy is just kind of like pulling stuff out of nowhere to make that film kind of work. And there's that whole bit in the middle where Jeremy Renner's character, or is it Rachel Weisz's character, one of them gets sort of tricked into hanging out in this house with them being talking to these psychiatrists, and then they turn out to be like the guys trying to kill her or something. I thought that was very good. Anyway, there's bits of that film I quite like, but I don't like Jason Bourne, and that was really disappointing actually. So that's the flip side to your question. Now, Jason Bourne was very disappointing because I thought, Greengrass and Damon back together. Here we go, let's do it. And the cast was so promising. The missing element is just the script. Paul Greengrass is not really a writer, and the script just isn't there. It just doesn't have the layers, and it doesn't have the kind of the tensions you need to kind of sustain it. So losing Tony Gilroy was a bad thing for that franchise.
Yeah. Do you think there's any hope for any more? Would you go back to another Bourne?
After Jason Bourne, I was a bit like, I think that might be it, honestly, because I just thought they did botch it. Yeah, I've been quite disappointed with most Paul Greengrass stuff lately, actually. Still like Captain Phillips, but since then, I just don't think it's been good. So I don't know. I think Bourne might have been played out by now. And sometimes with these sort of franchises, I feel like I'd rather have a fresh one anyway. I'm getting a bit bored of Mission Impossible, quite honestly. I'm a bit like, there's just so many more characters being added all the time. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll watch the next one. Great. But can we maybe draw a line after that? They've started to lose money a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's sort of becoming a bit Fast and Furious-y, isn't it now?
Yeah,
it's a bit soapy. I understand.
One of my problems with those very long-running franchises, exactly like Fast and Furious and like Mission Impossible and like Bond, is when you do too many in a row that are very successful and you add characters and they survive, then they all have to kind of come back every single time. It just bogs the film down. You have to have a scene with so and so. In the Sam Mendes Bond films, they had so much baggage on them, and No Time to Die as well. Why do we need Christoph Waltz coming back in that? Like, why do we need scenes with Rory Kinnear and every single other character? Sometimes I just want to wipe the slate clean and just kind of go off on a taut new side mission somewhere with just only characters we've never met.
Yeah.
But the best way to do that is just to bring you an entirely new franchise, basically, entirely new character.
I was about to say, is that what you're hoping from where they go with the new Bonds? Just like change it up.
I would love a fresh slate, but I don't think we're going to get that, are we? Because I just feel like they've introduced, Lashana Lynch, and we've got Ralph Fiennes still hanging around, and we've still got Naomi Harris. I feel like all of them, their agents will just be like on the case.
Are you thinking we're going to stick in that world then? They're not going to retool it at all?
I feel like all of those associate characters will still be around.
Oh, wow.
In the same way that Judi Dench stayed.
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
They moved from Brosnan to Daniel Craig. But I might be wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would love it just to be a fresh slate.
I wouldn't necessarily... I mean, it's a terrific film. I wouldn't necessarily rank it in my all-time favourite films, but 10 Cloverfield Lane really took me by surprise.
Yeah.
Great film, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Had no right to be that good. I was surprised when I saw it. Yeah, because those films are weird, those three. There is only 3 of them now, right?
Yeah, they did the Cloverfield Paradox, and then there was rumours that Overlord was going to be a Cloverfield movie, and then it wasn't. It was just a World War II zombie. Yeah, I think 3. I think they've only done 3.
How mad's that? Because the other Paradox was meant to be another film, and then they turned that into a Cloverfield. So
that was terrible. That was rubbish.
Yes, we've just talked about that. Yes, someone has talked about that. I'm just looking at the schedule. Yes, that one will be out by now. Yeah, we've watched that recently, The Paradox, and it's rubbish. But we both absolutely love that second one. And it's not really linked to the first one much, is it? Are the monsters the same at the end? Are we saying? Spoiler?
We only get a glancing look, don't we? We don't really see. We do see monsters at the end of 10 Cloverfield Lane, but it's not like it lingers on them. I mean, one could say that maybe it retcons the first one, and maybe it suggests there were like different monsters all alighting on New York within the events of the first one. And that might be a bit of a stretch, but I think we're meant to assume that it's the same monsters.
Yeah,
the little things, little creepy crawly things.
Yeah,
but I suppose when you're talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane, that last 10-15 minutes, that's the controversial bit, isn't it? Because a lot of people, it does blindside you, it hoodwinks you into thinking, oh, this is 90 minutes of a survival thriller set in a bunker, and then all of a sudden we appear to have 15 minutes of a different movie bolted onto the end of it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, because all the way through the movie, John Goodman's character has kidnapped Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and he's been telling her all the way through there has been some kind of an attack. So the omens are all there. It just so happens that the attack is, they did actually link it back to Cloverfield, to the found footage ones, the first one. So I didn't inherently have a problem with that. I did think the first 80, 90 minutes of it was the best bit. The bit when they are underground is fantastic, really tense, great acting, really stripped down lo-fi, character dynamics. John Goodman again plays a terrific psycho like he did in Barton Fink years before. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is really tenacious and really resourceful, and it's very easy to get on the side of her character because she's not easily daunted, and she always finds that these solutions about how to get out of this situation, and very tense. Yeah, I was very. Bear McCreary's score is fantastic.
Yeah,
very Bernard Herrmann-esque. I've interviewed Bear, and he's a great guy, and the use of the blaster beam on the soundtrack which was used in Jerry Goldsmith's score for Star Trek: The Motion Picture and others. I mean, I love all that heritage. I love the way Bear McCreary brings in that instrumental heritage into the score for 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think it's great.
Were you going into it then thinking this is going to be like Cloverfield, or because obviously I think we've seen trailers and they were quite secretive to Cloverfield trailers, if I remember right. But what were your thoughts going into it then?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because they almost do like a double bluff, don't they, with the title? They make you think, because it's called 10 Cloverfield Lane, it surely can't be a it can't be a Cloverfield movie because they wouldn't be that overt. So they try and do the reverse psychology, don't they, of making you think that because it's so obvious it can't possibly be that, or if it is, then maybe one wouldn't expect the ending to be as overtly linked to Cloverfield as it is. Like maybe one might have expected it to be a bit more, oblique in its connection. As it turns out, it's quite an explicit connection to Cloverfield at the very end when she gets out of the bunker and runs and finds out what's going on. It is more of an overt connection to the first film. I don't think. I mean, again, it's the classic J.J. Abrams bad robot thing. And I remember in the build up to it, they were doing everything they could to try and deflect the idea that it was a Cloverfield movie. They were kind of working hell for leather to kind of go, no, you need to we're not going to give away the secrets, but you need to go in and just experience it on its own terms. I mean, the minute you hear a studio or filmmakers like obfuscating like that, you think, well, clearly you've got something to hide here, haven't you? Otherwise, you just come out and say it. I didn't go in with that many expectations of it. I really like Cloverfield. The first Cloverfield I saw when I was at university, it was massive, and that was a game changer. Like the found footage, like monster movie being done on that scale, that was a big deal when it came out, and I was interested in this sequel. I can't say I was waiting for a sequel to Cloverfield. Not that I knew that's what this was going in. I just wanted a good thriller, and I got that. And at the end, I was like, "Oh, they did do it. they did do the thing they said they weren't going to do."
Do you think it'd annoy you more if it was a rubbish film and then they tried to tack on, like I suppose what they did in Paradox, right?
I mean, Paradox wasn't good for a host. I mean, Paradox, the acting wasn't good, the effects weren't good. Everything that was good about 10 Cloverfield Lane was kind of reversed in that one. But yeah, maybe. I mean, I think if it had been a rubbish film with just like 15 minutes of Cloverfield at the end, I think I would have still been annoyed. I would have still been like, well, you've still wasted my time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what happened at the end of Joker Folie à Deux. I'm like, you've wasted 2 hours, 20 minutes of my time baiting me with an alleged Joker Harley Quinn movie, and you are deliberately not going to pay that off. I'm like, thanks, guys. Thanks for nothing. Just, yeah.
What is your dream sequel?
I'm holding out hope that it's going to happen. But my dream sequel is a continuation of the story of Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, as told by David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin in the Social Network.
This choice. I love it.
Social Network is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the greatest screenplays, full stop. It's a perfect marriage of what interests Fincher. Jesse Eisenberg perfectly cast as Mark Zuckerberg. And the focus of the first movie is very much the launch of Facebook. But what it boils down to is this one lone individual creating this social network because he was rejected by a girl. And it ends with him, friend requesting her and refreshing to see if she'll actually respond, which is very much at the heart of what social media can be, right? Like, are we going to get recognized by the one person that we hope to get recognized by?
Yeah.
But as we all know, years down the road, that's barely scratching the surface of what social media is now and what Facebook is now.
Yeah.
And if you turned around and told me that David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin were getting together for, a follow-up movie, I'm salivating. I'm literally sitting in the theater now. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I will wait here until you're ready to show me what it is. And so, in my opinion, it has to happen. There's too much for them to comment on, for the two of them not to circle back around to the material and try to figure out something to say.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about this movie is that it's a story of someone who gets everything they want and loses everything that's important. Yep. So, Mark gets his success and his money and his fame, but he loses his best friend, and everyone who cares about him disappear. And it's just him silently refreshing, hoping for a connection.
Well, and it's how he is manipulated by Sean Parker and how he's manipulated. Well, he's manipulating the Winklevoss twins and the attorneys who are like the structure of that movie is so beautiful.
Yeah.
In the way that the two different depositions are laying out the history of Facebook. But think about Zuckerberg and his evolution since then, like the different ways that he has influenced American politics, the different ways that he has been influenced by global business.
Yeah.
Like this was a college kid essentially that we were focused on now. And the next phase of the story could be a grown-up, quote unquote, trying to figure out how to make his way in a world where, as you say, now he's alone. And where is he getting his support system from?
Because he doesn't even have his Sean Parker now, does he? Like, that's kind of...
No, that's gone.
All of that's gone.
And Facebook isn't cool anymore. And that's
right.
A lot of what that first film was like. We wanted to be cool. And at one point it was really cool, Facebook. And then obviously the adverts have come in and a lot of social medias turn into a cesspit. When you first saw it, the social media, not social... Social network. Thank you. Were you expecting it to be that good when you sat down for the first time and watched it?
I had high hopes for
it. The trailer was banging. I remember the trailer being like, Christ, okay.
Well, I love Fincher. I mean, I thought I still think David Fincher is one of the best filmmakers out there. But to be honest with you, the first time that I saw The Social Network, it was too much for me to process.
Wow. Okay.
And struck me as a little cold, because it is, I guess. So being candid, going into it, I didn't know who to root for.
Yeah.
Generally you sit down for a movie, you want to root for somebody, and there's no one really to root for in Social Network. Like maybe Eduardo, the Andrew Garfield character. Yeah. But even at that, like his story is brutal. And so you're watching it play out, and it took me multiple watches to truly figure out, and I still, when I go back, I get different things out of it, because it's so meticulously plotted. So that when you get to what I think is the greatest scene in it, although my opinion on that could change all the time, is when Eduardo is yelling at him about his shares, and how they're being diluted. And when he, if you think about watching that for the very first time, and then he turns around and he goes, "You're the one who planted the story. You're the one who told him that I abused the chicken," and Sean Parker's like, what are you talking about? That was me. I was like, wait, what? The chicken and the chicken, like I couldn't keep up with all of it because it moves so quickly and it doesn't hold your hand at all. No. It's moving like a freight train. So it takes multiple viewings for me to fully get like, oh, who's screwing who here and who's got the upper hand on what. And so I do remember the first time through, I came out of it and I was like, I think that's great, but I don't really kind of understand a lot of what happened. And it almost took years of us using social media to fully process the impact of the creation of, Facebook in general.
It's weird. I came up with this idea straight away. I was like, well, they make so many of the franchises of my youth, my past, have come back in some form. And for years I thought, why has no one ever done anything with the Police Academy films? And I was like, well, yes, they are really, really homophobic and racist, but they're films that just seem to be on all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That I've just got fondness for, even with full awareness of their flaws. I'm not going to deny their flaws at all. But so I was thinking, oh yeah, well if I could just do anything, I'd make a legacy sequel for that, like a passing of the torch. Especially because I was looking up, like last couple of days, I sort of Googled, and I was sad to see so many of the cast have passed away. And so I was like, well, this would, if I was doing it now, there were still some really talented people that I'd like to see them reprise their roles one more time. And so, yeah, there's a biggest part of me was like, well, yeah, I could just say, like a fourth before film. Like I'd love to see a fourth before film, or yeah, I might Kill Bill 3, but it's going to be just like the first one. But no, I was like, no, it has always, like, I'm surprised nothing's been done with the Police Academy films, and just to hear that just on the big screen, there's a little magic to that for me.
Yeah. Do you think it's because by the end they were just so terrible. Like that Mission to Moscow. Was it Mission to Moscow the last one?
I was about to ask Chris, can you name them all?
Awful.
That's a proper. Does the first one even have a subtitle? And that's the truth.
No. I'll give you the first one. It's called Police Academy.
Second one, Back in Training?
No, that's the third one.
That's the third one. Yeah.
New Recruits? No, that's fourth one. No, that's Citizens on Patrol. No, the answer is I cannot name them all.
This is my problem.
Second one's called The First Assignment, or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, then Citizens on Patrol. I can't remember what the fifth one's called.
No, okay, it's Police Academy. Then I'm going to do the colons. The First Assignment, Back in Training, Citizens on Patrol, Assignment Miami Beach, City Under Siege, and then Mission to Moscow.
Mission to Moscow is the worst one by a long stretch.
I guess I likewise. Not only can I guess in working against their favour, not only could I not remember their titles, I can't really remember what happened in any of them.
Oh, no. Oh, you won't, Chris. It's like a vortex of... They all just mash together into one big film.
We had to watch Mission to Moscow again recently because it was somebody's worst sequel. And at the point of watching it, Dave messaged me going, I haven't laughed once. I'm an hour in. It
is awful, that last
pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that I think it is a franchise that they could do some sort of Lego sequel with.
Stephen Guttenberg would love to.
Sort of spin on it, like get rid of all the homophobia and racism and just make it funny.
Well, I looked at who was still alive.
Right.
So Steve Guttenberg, obviously, I'd bring him back as Mahoney. And because he's the flagship character throughout the franchise, I'm going to make him the commissioner. He's going to be the man in charge.
I like this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm bringing back Michael Winslow as Jones.
Yep.
Got to. Who else we got? We got Leslie Easterbaker.
Easterbrook. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's back. Kim Cattrall, bring her back.
Why not?
And importantly, I'm going to bring back Bobcat Goldthwait and Tim Kaczynski as Zed and Sweet Chuck, because I've got to be honest, those are the ones I probably watch the most. Ones where Zed's the villain, and then the one where Zed joins the force. Those are sort of double bill. Are where my real affection lies. Like the other month, I was at work, and I think I just got my hair cut, and there was a guy. I think he was sort of Eastern European, said to me, "Oh, you look like the guy from the Police Academy films." I thought he meant Steve Guttenberg, I'll be honest with you. And then I was thinking, I'll take that as a compliment, but I don't. And then he's like, the guy that's like, ah, and I was like, oh. You mean Zed?
Oh no.
It's fine. No, there's a compliment in there somewhere because I like Zed. Zed's a great character.
He is a great character. You're right.
That's true. Have you thought about the new recruit part though? Who would you want to see in a Police Academy film with them?
Yeah, well, I was trying to think about this, and then I instantly went to this list I've got of because I go to a ton of live comedy shows, and I ended up sort of looking through that. So it's largely British and Irish.
I love it. Yeah.
I came up a bunch of names of people I've seen that were really funny that I thought I would like to see them in this setting. So one of them was it was a drag queen called Kate Butch I saw earlier this year, who was hilarious.
Right.
So funny. And she's real sort of statuesque. And you haven't got Hightower anymore. So you want somebody that's super tall. So I was thinking she's in.
Brilliant. Good start.
Jamali Maddox, his show wasn't very good, other than the fact his crowd work was superb. He spent the whole time just taking the piss out of one guy for the whole show. And he just has this kind of real sort of anti-authority kind of he would be the worst person in the world to be a policeman. So that's gold to me.
Yes, agreed. I like him.
I went for this comedian called Fatima El Ghori.
Yep.
Who I've seen a couple of times recently, and she's just got a real funny, large than life presence because she's like a Muslim woman, but she's proper East London or North London or something. She's proper larger than life because you need some sort of larger than lifeness to these things. I threw in Nish Kumar as well. I think great comedian.
Because why not?
and Catherine Bohart, I thought as the sort of straight person, the sort of to look to call them out on all their.
You need that person.
Someone that's more of the audience's proxy, I guess.
So it's almost springing off the one we were just talking about. So 90s cop franchise, black leading actor, And it's a movie that did not get a sequel because it didn't make enough money, basically, and it's a bit sad. And this is Devil in a Blue Dress from 1995. Now, this is Denzel Washington's attempt to start a new franchise, really. I think they very much were intending for that to be the case. It's based on one of the books by Walter Mosley, who is a genuinely excellent writer of crime fiction, several of whose books I've read, and his main character is called Easy Rawlins, and he's this kind of New Orleans dude who gets in and out of different scrapes, solves murders, and so forth. And Columbia, I think it was, made this film in 1995. It was TriStar, yeah, pretty much, Sony Columbia. And it was intended as like his Denzel's going to go genre here for us, and in period as well, and it is beautiful. It's shot by Tak Fujimoto, who shot Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, wow. And
also had form with shooting Denzel Washington. I think he shot Philadelphia as well. I don't think Denzel Washington has ever looked better than he does in this film. I think that just like every shot of him is like a portrait from Life magazine. It's incredible. The period stylings are great, but also the plot really works. It has a kind of nice laid back vibe at the beginning, and you kind of think it might just be a bit of a mooch around 1940s LA, in fact, where this one's set. Some of them are in New Orleans, I think. But then it generates quite a lot of edge and tension as it goes on. Jennifer Beals has this role in it, and it's a good use of her, and there are not many of those in the 90s. Jennifer Beals had a good part in this. And the rest of the supporting cast, Tom Sizemore was good, and Don Cheadle had a real moment in this film. I think it was the first time people kind of realized that he could be a bit of a powerhouse, Don Cheadle. Yeah. He's almost like the equivalent of the Joe Pesci character in Goodfellas. He's just he's this kind of explosive rat-like character. He's great. So on all fronts, this was a good translation of a Walter Mosley novel with Denzel Washington kind of on very authoritative form. It's just it didn't take off. It cost $22 million, and it recouped almost exactly that, I think, the box office.
22 million doesn't seem a lot for this kind of period movie. It's essentially a film noir, isn't it, really? Like it's got a lot of those beats. It's almost the exact opposite of Alex Cross in the last movie, is that Denzel's character, Easy Rawlins, is set out to be not really the smartest guy and kind of falls into, all sorts of problems and stuff, but ends up actually having quite a knack for solving, murders, essentially. So, figuring these things out. And it's almost like the opposite, whereas Alex Cross is supposed to be like this super kind of detective and actually does everything by accident.
That's a very good point. Because Easy Rawlins is like laid off at the beginning of this film, and he doesn't know what he's doing. It's a bit of a layabout. And he just stumbles into this case and ends up being sharper at solving it than any of the actual people being employed to do that, like the private investigator.
He's very reluctant to do it as well. It's just,
exactly.
They keep flashing money under. He's like, okay, we'll go a bit further. We'll go a bit further at this.
And being Walter Mosley, there's a lot of really interesting kind of racial tensions in the film as well, about the kind of police, of course, the LAPD, and Rawlins's relationship with them. So there's these kind of nice layers to it. But it's very... it's a languorous, cool film.
Yeah.
And I just wish it had found an audience in 1995, because we could have had another one, and it would probably have been quite a lot better than Along Came a Spider. It's funny because the same year that they made this one, they also tried to get James Lee Burke, who's another crime writer I really like, off to the races with an Alec Baldwin movie called Heaven's Prisoners. Have you ever seen that? In fact, it's 1 year later. Heaven's Prisoners was a New Line adaptation of James Lee Burke, with Alec Baldwin in the lead role as the cop who's in all of those books. He's called Dave Robichaud. And again, quite a similar vibe. Not bad, but again, that one was a real flop. That film cost $25 million, and it made like $5 million. So it was absolutely water, unfortunately. Whereas the Denzel one, it broke even, but they're never going to clamour for a sequel to a movie that doesn't turn a profit, unfortunately.
No. And that was season 7.
Jazz hands! Yay! Thank you, everyone, for listening to some of the best bits of season 7, because obviously it's not all the best bits of season 7, because me and Rich would make it, we think...
It'd just be all of it, wouldn't it?
All the episodes, just go listen to them all again. They're just some of our small favourite bits that we can work into a maybe 2-hour episode, if I get it down to that when I get to the edit. They get longer each time we do them, because every time I do one of these best ofs, I'm like, I love so many parts of this series. Rich, can you name all the people?
Of course I can. We've got a spreadsheet now.
This is why he does the spreadsheet.
So yeah, I can do them in order if you like. We kicked off with Pierre Novellie, the brilliant Pierre Novellie, and then episode 2 was Tim Robey. Then we had Andy Gaffney, Chris Johnson, Sean O'Connell, Tom Salainsky, Leslie Byron Pitt, Esther Manito, Sean Wilson, Nathan Darcy Roberts, and we ended with Huge Davies.
Incredible.
See, I can read.
Yeah, you can read well. What a season with so many quality sequels, shit sequels, worse sequels, and then a splendid selection of dream sequels.
This season will always be the strange season where we've got Secret Window twice for dream sequel. How did that happen?
I don't know. It's not like we planned this.
Either. That's so weird.
A film that was never been mentioned for 15 years by anyone. And then here we are. And then I had to check that they weren't on the same stag do, and they weren't.
No.
And Pierre thinks it's a rubbish film, but made a funny point.
Had a wild sequel idea, yeah.
Yep. And Esther loves the film.
And sort of has a prequel idea?
Yeah. It's all great stuff. Yeah. Well, we're going to start on talk about the dream sequels now. My favourite one of the season, rewatching, what was yours? Mine was The Social Network. I always forget how good The Social Network is.
Probably is.
And I watched The Social Network, and then I would like to see where that goes. And Sean's ideas are good. And plus, Facebook is... social media is now just a cesspit of shit. So that would be an interesting watch.
So yeah, that was a good one to watch. I also really enjoyed watching Devil in a Blue Dress.
Never seen it, so that was good. Thank you, Tim, for picking that. And Denzel movie. The House Parties, House Party 2 and House Party 3 I watched as well. That was never seen them before. Heathers I haven't watched in many years, so that was interesting. Vanilla Sky was a good quality picks there for dreams.
Yeah,
let's just go back to the best for us.
Yes, sorry, I skipped ahead.
That's fine, because they really are some of the best sequels in that list. So Fury Road, Aliens, The Last Jedi, Before Sunset, twice again.
Yep, it's popular.
Avengers Endgame, Mission Impossible Fallout, New Nightmare, there's a curveball. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Godfather Part 2, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
All amazing, and New Nightmare.
Yeah. But bless you, Leslie. It was a great chat, and would love the reasons why you picked it. Any of those, the best sequel out of that you enjoyed rewatching?
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, always. Love those movies.
Okay.
That's brilliant. I mean, yeah, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, of course. They're brilliant. Obviously, love Fury Road as well. That's a great movie.
It's a pleasure to watch most of those movies, apart from New Nightmare. But at least I've watched it now. So that means I've watched 2 of the Nightmare on Elm Street films in my life. Actually, I've watched the first one, so 3. I'm on 3 until someone picks out, like, The Dream Child or whatever it is called.
So I've only watched the 2, and I've only watched them for this podcast.
Well... So. We've got a long way to go then. And now, the worst sequels. Which is always...
there have been some worst in here, haven't there?
It's always an experience with watching worst sequels, because we expect them to be bad. But, this was a bad bunch.
Well, finally somebody picked Troll 2 that we've been waiting for a while, which is truly horrible.
Awful film.
Cloverfield Paradox as well. Awful.
Ugh, rubbish.
Absolutely. The Exorcist 2, again, we've been waiting for that to come up for a while.
Madness.
Absolute donkey turd. And a newcomer that I think is going to come up a lot, Joker Folie à Deux.
Yes, I think it will come up a lot.
Rubbish.
Over the next few years, that's definitely going to pop up. Then we've got the classics like Speed 2 and Sex and the City 2 and A Good Day to Die Hard. All bad films. And Zoolander 2, we've had that before.
We have, yeah. We had Kill Bill Volume 2 came up, which I think is a controversial one.
Yes, that was the one I maybe wouldn't put in there. It's not as good as the first one, but a bad sequel.
Yeah. And of course, Along Came a Spider.
Ugh, that's not good.
It's not good.
What was your highlight there, dare I ask?
I'm not sure there's a highlight. My low light, obviously Troll 2. I'm watching that again for the first time since we were at university. I do think, actually, Curse of the Pink Panther, I think, was
bizarre.
Really bad. Really, very
really
bad.
Weird. Really weird sequel, that one.
And obviously Sex and the City 2. I hope I never have to watch again.
I've now made I'm never going to watch it, because you didn't watch it that time, but I went back.
I've already seen it twice, so I don't watch it again.
Refresh that memory, and then it,
I don't think there were
revoked everything I hate about it.
Any really wild choices.
Well, there's no Back to the Future 2.
No, or like John Wick 2,
or June Part 2.
Yeah, or June Part 2. There weren't any crazy choices in there. I think Kill Bill Volume 2 is the closest we got to, but I can sort of agree with the reasons for that.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I don't think there was any crazy choices.
Everyone convinces me, all the guests convince me that they're right when they're on the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because they're all brilliant. Any other highlights of the season? Of people we got to talk?
Oh, everyone. I mean, I'm really surprised. When we started planning this season, we were really worried that it was going to be, a really tough season. But actually, it's been so good. I really love talking to Esther Manito. I really liked that. It was great. It was really great. I really loved Andy as well. That was a great conversation. In fact, everyone's been so good. I've really enjoyed it. We managed to get we got Sean on from America as well. That's always nice.
Yep, from Cinema Blend.
Yeah.
That was a treat. We don't want to pull back the curtain too much, but normally doing seasons are quite stressful. And this one, dare I say, the least stressful we've ever done.
I think it worked out that way. It didn't feel like that way to start with, though, did it?
Well, no, but it did. We had no major...
I think when we were sat down planning it, and we were getting so many... Well, we got loads of yeses, and then get a bit ghosted by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's really disheartening when that happens. But it just sort of seemed that everyone kind of all came together for this series all at once. And it was great. You did a brilliant job, Dave.
Thank you. There's a bunch of people I thought that said yes and were people we got, and we're never going to record with them.
No.
Yeah. Huge is never going to be there until I'm talking to Hugh Davies, who I'm a big fan of comedy wise, and I blacked out for an hour just because I was so worried about for it, and then it turned out this is a great episode. That happened a few times on this season. But like you said, Esther was great. They're all great. I should stop picking Leslie, Tom, Chris, Tim, all wonderful people. Sean, love talking about Sean and the music.
Both Sean's, in fact.
Both Sean's. Oh my God. The music Sean was great. We could have really enjoyed that. The sequel sessions were also great. So thank you for all of them to
some
spending
really
time
good
there.
Sequel sessions on this season as well. So yeah, if you're another Slice listener, then you've got some treats from this series.
Yep. So thank you to the guests for coming on. You're all great. We are now looking forward to season 8. We go again. We've got, how many episodes until we do episode 100? Is it 14?
It's 14, yeah. No,
14 more
it's not.
episodes.
It's 16.
16.
16 episodes until we get to our 100th. And you finally find out mine and Dave's best, worst and dream sequels.
Brilliant. So we're going to look for, we've already started to annoy some people for season 8, so that's fun. Hopefully the people that have said yes will be doing it, so that's great as ever. But yeah, thank you so much to anyone that's listened to any of the, I'm going to say 12 episodes because I'm going to include the Unequal Sequelizer special edition.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I forgot we've not talked about that. We've not mentioned it. But talking of best ofs, that's probably my highlight of the season. I loved it so much. It was really good.
It was an amazing day. We got to spend the whole day with the Sequelizers crew, and they made us feel very much part of the team and not intimidated. And we think we did a good job.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think so.
And it was a right laugh being in Norwich. It was a long day, but we did it. We got through it.
We did.
Smashed it. And hopefully it won't be the last time we collaborate with those guys. Hopefully it's not the death of Unequal Sequelizers. We'll try and work another one day.
Christmas special 4, baby.
Christmas special. Oh, yeah, look. There it is. End of next year. Oh, wow. Well, yeah, 2-season year again.
Yeah.
We go again.
2-season year in 2025. Season 8 and 9. Can't believe we're talking about seasons 8 and 9 already.
No. Okay. So I've got nothing else to say. I think this is just the part when I say bye. Do you have anything else to say?
Well, I mean, I could talk about all the social media and all that kind of stuff. Do we need to do that on this bit?
Nah, don't do it.
No, okay, all right.
Otherwise, it's going to go on forever.
I don't have anything to say, Dave. I'm done.
Okay, so it's thank you so much for listening. It's a goodbye from me, bye-bye, and a goodbye from him.
Bye!
See you in the next season, sequel to this season. Have a great time. Bye. On to the ocho.
On to what now?
Ocho, isn't that 8 in Spanish?
I don't know. I don't speak Spanish, I'm afraid.
Okay, what's 8 in French?
Wheat.
Oh. There you go. I thought you were going to draw a blank then, but...
I had to reach back into my brain for GCSE French.
German? Do you know German?
I don't know German, no.
Yeah, okay.
The only German I know is from watching Eurosport when I was a teenager.